One Grand Cherokee hit 384,000 miles on the original engine, transmission, and transfer case. Most won't make it past 150,000 before something expensive breaks. We pulled 30 years of complaint data to find the 7 model years worth keeping forever, and number 1 earned the highest reliability score any Grand Cherokee has ever received. Number 7, the 1998 Grand Cherokee. We are starting with a truck that your mechanic would beg you to buy if he was being honest with you. The 1998 was the very last year of the first generation ZJ platform, and Jeep had been building and tweaking that same truck for 6 straight years by then. Every weird electrical bug and factory mistake from the early 90s had been caught and killed by 1998, so what rolled off the line that year was basically the perfected final draft of the original Grand Cherokee. But the real reason the 1998 belongs on this list has nothing to do with the body or the interior. It is all about what is sitting under that hood. The 4.0-liter inline-6 in the 1998 Grand Cherokee might be the most unkillable engine Jeep has ever bolted into anything. One owner on the Jeep forums posted that his 1997 with the same motor has 336,000 original miles and still fires up every morning without a single hiccup. Another guy on Car Gurus said his 1995 hit 384,000 miles on the original engine, original transmission, and original transfer case, and he was still driving it to work every day. That engine typically lasts between 200,000 and 300,000 miles with basic oil changes, but the crazy ones blow right past that into territory that would melt most modern motors. And the reason it survives that long is almost stupid in how simple it is. The inline-6 has fewer moving parts than a V6 or V8, which means there are fewer things that can break on you. Car complaints data backs this up too, because the 1998 has one of the lowest complaint counts of any Grand Cherokee generation ever produced. Parts are dirt cheap since the ZJ sold in massive numbers during the 90s, and you can grab a runner today for $5,000 to $8,000. But clean, rust-free examples are already climbing toward $15,000 to $25,000 in collector pricing, and the 5.9 limited trim is going for even more than that. The only thing that kills these trucks is rust eating through the frame in northern states, so if you find one from a dry climate with solid metal underneath it, that is a future classic sitting right in front of you. Now that 4.0 inline-6 was amazing, but you are probably wondering if any newer Grand Cherokee can match that kind of longevity. The answer is yes, and the next entry on this list proved it in a way nobody expected. Number 6, the 2003 Grand Cherokee. Most people skip right over the second generation WJ when they shop for a Grand Cherokee, and that is a huge mistake. The 2003 was the sweet spot of that entire generation, and the ownership numbers tell a story that would shock most buyers who have never looked at the data. The 2005 and 2006 Grand Cherokees each racked up over 3,000 complaints on the NHTSA database. The 2003 had around 900 total across its entire lifetime. That is not a small gap. That is a canyon between a headache and a truck you can actually trust. The 2003 came with the quadra-drive system that handled off-road traction automatically without you flipping a single switch. And if you got the 4.7-liter V8, you had a motor that could tow your toys on the weekend and still get you to work on Monday without drama. But the real treasure in the 2003 lineup is finding one with the 4.0 inline-6, because that is the exact same bulletproof engine from the 1998 we just talked about. One owner on Cars.com posted that his 2004 Grand Cherokee with the 4.0 crossed 400,000 miles on the original engine and the original transmission. 400,000 miles without cracking the motor open even once. Now the inside of the 2003 was ugly and cheap because Chrysler was cutting costs on cabin materials during this era, and you will absolutely feel that every time you touch the dashboard. But nobody buying a 2003 Grand Cherokee cares about soft-touch plastic on the door panels. They care about whether the truck is going to start every single morning and get them where they need to go without leaving them stranded. And on that front, the 2003 delivers in a way that very few SUVs from that era can match. The 2003 gave you old-school toughness with just enough modern comfort to live with daily. But the next entry threw all of that out the window and replaced it with something completely different: real muscle. Number 5, the 2005 Grand Cherokee. The third generation WK landed in 2005, and it felt like Jeep had built an entirely different vehicle. For the first time in Grand Cherokee history, you could walk into a dealership and drive home with a 5.7-liter Hemi V8 under the hood. We are talking 330 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque in a mid-size SUV. And back in 2005, that kind of power in a family truck was genuinely rare. This thing can embarrass half the sports cars at your local stoplight and then tow a 7,200-pound trailer home without breaking a sweat. But the Hemi was not even the biggest change. The 2005 also switched from a solid front axle to an independent front suspension, and that one decision completely transformed how the Grand Cherokee felt on the highway. Suddenly, long road trips were smooth and quiet instead of bumpy and exhausting, and the interior finally felt like it deserved to be in a truck with the word grand in its name. Owners who kept their 2005 models running report engine life well past 200,000 miles with just regular maintenance, and the Hemi typically only needs a timing chain service around the 150,000 mile mark before it keeps right on going. The Rocky Mountain edition from this year has become a quiet legend among Jeep people who want a truck that does everything without being great at nothing. And with clean Hemi-equipped examples going for somewhere between $6,000 and $12,000 right now, you are getting V8 muscle and real off-road capability for less than a new set of options costs on a modern SUV. That is a steal, and the people who know Jeeps already understand that. Alright, so the 2005 brought the power. But power without reliability is just an expensive tow bill waiting to happen. And the next entry on this list might be the single most reliable Grand Cherokee that Jeep ever put on the road. The data on this one is honestly hard to believe. Quick side note, if you're watching this thinking, okay, but how do I actually get my Jeep to last that long? That's exactly why I put together my Jeep Longevity Guide. It breaks down the exact maintenance habits that make the difference between a Grand Cherokee dying at 150,000 or pushing past 300,000 miles. I'll link it in the description below if you want to check it out. Now let's get into the next one. Number 4, the 2010 Grand Cherokee. Go into any Jeep forum right now, any Facebook group, any subreddit, and ask which Grand Cherokee is the most bulletproof model ever sold. The 2010 is going to be the first answer that comes back almost every single time. And when you look at the actual numbers, you will understand why people feel that strongly about it. The 2010 had only about 200 total complaints on the NHTSA database. 200. For a truck that sold in massive volume that year, 200 complaints is almost nothing. Now compare that to what happened next. The 2011 Grand Cherokee, which was the very first year of the brand new 4th generation platform, got hit with 10 times more engine complaints and triggered an actual class action lawsuit from angry owners. 10 times the problems from one single year of difference. That is not a coincidence. That is what happens when you buy the first year of a new design versus the last year of a proven one. And the 2010 was the last and most refined year of the 3rd generation WK platform, which means every bug fix, every software update, and every engineering correction from 5 years of production was already built into this truck before it ever left the factory. You could get the 2010 with the 3.7-liter V6 for daily driving, or step up to the 5.7 Hemi for serious towing power, and the KBB rating of 4.3 out of 5 confirms that owners across both engine options were genuinely happy with what they got. If you are shopping for a used Grand Cherokee on a budget, and you want the lowest possible risk of something expensive going wrong, the 2010 is the safest bet you can make. And that last year versus first year pattern we just talked about is going to show up again at number 1 on this list in an even bigger way. Number 3, the 2017 Grand Cherokee. The 4th generation WK2 started in 2011, and it was a disaster. There is no polite way to say it. The 2011 had transmission failures, electrical gremlins everywhere, and the TIPM module would randomly stop sending power to the fuel pump, which meant your truck just would not start some mornings for no reason at all. It got bad enough that owners filed a class action lawsuit, and the 2014 was somehow even worse, piling up over 3,000 complaints on NHTSA and earning one of the lowest reliability scores in the entire SUV market that year. So when people ask if the Grand Cherokee is reliable, the answer depends entirely on which year you are talking about. Because the 2017 is a completely different animal from those early WK2 nightmares. By 2017, Jeep had 6 full years of fixing mistakes under their belt, and it shows in every piece of data you can pull up. The 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 had been tested and proven across millions of miles in dozens of Chrysler vehicles before it ever touched this truck. The 8-speed automatic had been smoothed out to the point where the jerky shifting from the early years was completely gone. Annual maintenance costs sit around $650 to $700 a year, and the 2017 lands on the cheaper end of that range because less stuff breaks on it. The Uconnect infotainment system in the 2017 was genuinely one of the best in the industry at the time, which is something you almost never hear people say about a Jeep product. Clean 2017 models go for $13,000 to $20,000, with towing capacity up to 6,200 pounds, and for that money, you are getting a truck that finally delivered on everything the early WK2 models promised, but could not back up. The 2017 proved the 4th generation could be trusted, but Jeep was not done refining it yet, and 2 years later, they released a Grand Cherokee that put up complaint numbers so low, it made even the legendary 2010 look over its shoulder. Number 2. The 2019 Grand Cherokee. Only about 220 total complaints on record across its entire ownership life. Let that number settle in for a second. The 2019 Grand Cherokee generated fewer problems than almost any model year in the 30-plus year history of this truck, and it did that while carrying more technology, more sensors, more electronics, and more complexity than any Grand Cherokee before it. More stuff to break, and yet less stuff actually broke. That tells you something about how far Jeep had come by this point in the WK2 lifecycle. Safety technology on the 2019 jumped way past what the older generations could offer. Blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alerts, adaptive cruise control, and forward collision warning all showed up as standard or easy add-on features depending on the trim you picked. Towing capacity hit 6,200 pounds with the V6 and cleared 7,200 with the available V8. So pulling a boat or a camper was never a problem for this thing, even on long highway grades. And if you can find a Trailhawk trim at used prices, you are getting locking differentials, an air suspension system, and genuine trail capability that nothing else in this price range can match. Used 2019 models sit between $15,000 and $25,000 right now, and for a truck that can handle your daily commute, a family road trip, and a weekend trail run without flinching at any of them, that is a hard deal to walk away from. But the 2019 held the crown for exactly 2 years because Jeep had one final version of the 4th generation left to build. And this last one broke every reliability record the Grand Cherokee had ever set. Number 1. The 2021 Grand Cherokee. Remember that pattern we talked about earlier, where the last year of every Grand Cherokee generation ends up being the most reliable version they ever made? The 2021 is the ultimate proof of that rule. J.D. Power gave the 2021 Grand Cherokee a quality and reliability score of 85 out of 100, which is the highest number any Grand Cherokee has ever earned in the entire history of the nameplate. Most other model years scored down in the low 70s on that same scale, so the 2021 was not just a little better than average, it was playing a completely different game. Jeep had been building the WK2 platform for a full 10 years by 2021, and every single painful lesson from the disaster models of 2011 through 2014 had been absorbed, corrected, and tested over a full decade of production refinements. The transmissions that used to fail in the early years were now shifting flawlessly. The electrical systems that used to glitch and drain batteries were now stable and predictable. Everything that went wrong in the beginning had been fixed by the end, and the 2021 is where all of those fixes came together in one truck. You could also get the 2021 with the 6.4-liter V8 in the SRT trim, or the supercharged 6.2-liter in the Trackhawk, and both of those performance models have already become instant collectibles that climb in price every single month as Jeep moves toward electrification. Even the base V6 models from 2021 hold their resale value stronger than almost anything else in the used midsize SUV market right now, which means buying one is not just a good ownership decision, but a smart financial move too. Remember that owner from the Hook who drove his Grand Cherokee 384,000 miles on the original everything without a rebuild? He did that on an older generation with older technology. The 2021 took that same Jeep toughness and wrapped it in a decade of modern engineering, and that is exactly why it sits at number 1 on this list as the single best Grand Cherokee ever made. So, which one of these Grand Cherokee years are you driving or thinking about buying? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more breakdowns like this that actually save you money, hit subscribe. I've got a lot more coming. See you next time.